What's going on, everyone? It's the Raving Wolf, the Reformation, Keegan Dimitrovic, and today I'm doing something a bit new. We're going to be responding to some hot takes on Twitter/X of professional wrestling fans. See, now that I'm in the business, my opinions have changed a little bit, to say the least. So let's get to them. So first on Twitter, Kane43089298 says, Stardom is the best wrestling promotion in the world, followed up by Deadlock Pro Wrestling. Stardom's amazing. For those who don't know, Stardom is the premier female professional wrestling company in Japan. They put on amazing work, and you see talents like Io Shirai, Asuka, Kairi Sane, many more. They are derived from Stardom, and they are amazing talents. I watch Stardom on a pretty regular basis, and the talents that they have there, like Julia, for example, and Utami Hayashishita. I mean, there's so many that are amazing, and they're all top stars. Everybody there brings something different to the table. In terms of best wrestling company, that's always subjective. So I would say honestly, it's a pretty fair take if you're a fan of Japanese pro wrestling, like myself. And Deadlock Pro Wrestling is also a major indie in the United States. I believe it's in Central USA, and they're amazing as well. And independent wrestling is really getting prominent, and that's a good thing because you always need more wrestling. There can never be enough, and Deadlock is actually a place that I hope I can wrestle one day going forward into the future if I ever can get to the United States to wrestle. From there, Drew Angel TV says, I believe Roman Reigns should remain the undisputed Universal Champion until SummerSlam. And then under that, at David McFarland says SummerSlam 25, that is. Again, it depends on what the plans are. It depends on who they have lined up for Roman. It depends on what their plan is for Cody Rhodes going forward. I think if you right now have Roman Reigns end up beating Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, that can be catastrophic if it's not done correctly. And Cody's already lost to Roman once at Mania, and I think losing again, I don't think it would serve that good of a purpose. But again, that's just me saying it on the outside, and maybe there is a better plan going forward. But I do think they've really run out of challengers for Roman, and challengers that, not that they're not at a main event level, but challengers that you can bring in and they're not going to get hurt by a loss. Because if you end up feeding a whole roster, it's going to, one, not just make the roster inferior in my opinion, but two, I think it's going to hurt a lot of the talent who could win a world title but really shouldn't be losing a big match like that right now. So that's my take on that one. But Roman has been an amazing champion, but I think also too the part-time schedules kind of hurt it as well. At Credit Dev says Dustin Rhodes should be AEW champion in 2024. I think I think with Dustin, it should have happened a little bit earlier. I'd say like the maybe 2020, even 2021, because I think there could have been a story there if Cody would have been the AEW champion at some point without the stipulation that he can never challenge it, and then Dustin, even if it's a transitional run, ends up taking the belt off Cody in a Double or Nothing 2019 rematch. But this time it could be more friendly, or Cody can go back being heel, depending on what you want. Now I don't know, but I definitely think back then, yes, it should have happened. And Dustin Rhodes is one of the greatest pro wrestlers to have never won a world title. And his career just speaks volumes. He's, in my opinion, one of the best to ever do it. And just so fluid in the ring, so much natural charisma, pun intended, now that I think about it. But I would have said maybe 2020, 2021, I think may have been the time to have done it. And I think Dustin's had one heck of a career, and whenever he decides to retire, I think he's more than fitting for a proper retirement match and can go any way he wants, even if he wins the title in his last match. You never know. You never know what can happen, right? So um, I would have, but again, like I would have said, I would have done it in probably 2020 or 2021. At Crazy Wolf too says, I think Max Caster should turn on Anthony Bowens in the future. I can see it happening. When I don't know, but I do agree. I think it is going to end up happening. One of them will turn on the other. I think Anthony Bowens is going to be a natural baby face, and I think both guys, just from watching them, I think they have potential to be really good singles talents. On top of that, so I think your take is pretty valid. I think it will end up happening, whether it's 2024, 2025. I think both of those guys can really go somewhere in the singles division, whether it's TNT or world title. But they both have natural charisma that the crowd loves, and we've seen that with their team as the acclaimed over the last couple of years. So again, I agree with you, Crazy Wolf, too. At KZ Baby 2 says, hoping that a company goes out of business or a wrestler gets fired is disgusting behavior and should be shunned more. I think I look at it this way: everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I do agree in the sense that hoping that somebody fails, I think is a pretty pessimistic way of looking at things. And I always use this analogy of more wrestling the better, and I think I mentioned that already, probably on this video. But I just even looking as a fan and as a performer, you want more wrestling to be there. You don't want to see companies go under because that's less paychecks for people who drive hundreds of miles to get somewhere, even thousands of miles, and to put food on their table and money in their bank accounts to survive. Especially with today's day, with inflation and all the stuff that goes on. I mean, everybody's got to find a way to survive. So I do think hope kind of having a company go down is really detrimental, and hoping that they go down again is just a product of that pessimistic behavior. So I wholeheartedly agree, and a lot of us we have the right to work and we have the right to try to make money. So I think that if you are trying to kind of get somebody out of a job, I think that is kind of it's kind of a bad situation, and because I think most people deserve to work and deserve to have an income so they can keep not even flourish but keep just staying steady in this economy. Not just BT Strass one says championship runs longer than a year need to be stopped. It gets stale very quickly. That depends on the champion, and that depends on how the champion's booked. So I wouldn't say all championship runs that are over a year need to be stopped. It depends on the booking of it, and it depends on who the champion is going against, and it also depends on the face and heel dynamic on top of that. So, for example, Roman's run's gone 3 years, going on year four. The first year I thought was pretty excellent, and I don't think it was stale. It just depends on who you have lined up. So if you're, for instance, a heel world champion, you need to have a great gallery of baby faces to go against so your run doesn't get stale, and also coming up with finishes and conclusions that aren't going to make the babyface look bad in defeat. So I think that's the problem. I don't think it's necessarily the length. I think it's how to make baby faces still look good if they lose, and how a heel can still flourish at the top of the card without killing every one of your baby faces off. Ben Sibbs Comedy says there is too much long term storytelling in wrestling. Brackets Bloodline the Elite slash Hangman Tale. Long term storytelling can be really good when you do it correctly. I think it goes hand in hand with the comment I made about long championship runs that are over a year. It depends on how you book it. It depends on the story that you're trying to tell, and it depends on continuity. So, for example, if you're on one television company and you book a long term story, but you abandon it for 3 to 6 months and then you come back to it after, you can't always expect your audience to remember that. It doesn't matter, again, what company it is, but you can't always expect your audience to remember that. You need to keep a reminder going of what the story is that you are trying to convey. And on top of that, you have to have people that you're emotionally invested in. If you just pair up people in a story because they can have good matches together, okay, that's fine, but you need to have more than that. So you need to keep the emotion going in each and every single program you do that you're trying to tell long term. So that's I guess my rebuttal to your question. At Edward Driven says, I'm sorry. No matter how amazing you are at wrestling, if you have no personality, I'll be bored. I mean, again, it's always a product of preference, but I think if you are in the professional wrestling industry, you need to have some sort of charisma. Like, it doesn't all need to be gaudy charisma, with flashy suits and all that. Like, you can do that, but you got to have a little bit of a story to yourself. You got to have a little bit of a character arc, and not character in terms of playing a character, but having character traits to your personality in general. So I agree. I would say for any pro wrestler, you can do moves and spots, but you need to again emotionally get people involved, and that's what wrestling's all about. Pro wrestling is all about emotion. So if a lot of other people can keep doing that in the business, they'll probably be gold from there, or at least maybe get some other opportunities. Because if you have personality, that can take you to the next level. At Demented Gesture One says Shinsuke should have beaten AJ at WrestleMania 34. I'm gonna say I agree. Uh, I think what could have happened is AJ could have went heel and Nakamura stays a babyface, or just do what you're doing now with Nakamura with the Japanese subtitles, which I think is amazing, by the way, and still have him turn but win the title at Mania. You could have done that too. But I think either way, I think Nakamura definitely should have won the match. I think it was his time. So to answer that, I would say, yeah, Nakamura for WWE Champion at WrestleMania 34. At Ethan Theory says Roman Reigns didn't need the titles to do the Bloodline storyline after WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes should have won. At the time, I remember thinking, yeah, Cody definitely should have beaten Roman at Mania. And now I'm 50-50 on it because I want to see what the end game is going to be for this story. If the moment for WrestleMania 40 is even bigger and Cody gets a bigger coronation by beating Roman now, I would say, you know what? I think he should have kept the title at 39 to 40 like the way they did it. But if that doesn't really end up happening and it's not as big as it should be, then I'm going to go back and say, yeah, I think WrestleMania 39 should have been the time, because I do think they can do the whole bloodline story without the WWE Championship. That I 100% agree with, because I think that storyline is more over enough and it doesn't need the title. I think the title almost feels secondary at this point. Erod's Heartbreak says Bret Hart is the most overrated wrestler in the history of WWF/WWE. That one's going to be a disagree from me. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I think when you look at Bret's body of work, I can't really say that he's overrated. Actually, I think he's in the top five of all time easily. So I think Bret's psychology may be the best ever in pro wrestling. He was smooth in the ring. Everything flowed well. He always told a story in every single match he did, whether it was with 1-2-3 Kid or Diesel or Shawn Michaels or The Undertaker or Stone Cold Steve Austin. No matter who he was in the ring with, Bret told a different style of story every time. And I really do think he's the excellence of execution. And that's not even the Canadian in me saying that. It's just me saying it objectively, that Bret Hart is one of the best pro wrestlers of all time. Last but not least, sorry, Athletic Geek 89 says, for all the talk from fans about AEW being a pure wrestling company, the AEW product has way more in common with WWE's sports entertainment presentation than pure wrestling companies like old Ring of Honor or 90s All Japan/New Japan. You gotta you gotta be a bit sports entertainment to survive in North America. Yeah, I mean, see, pro wrestling always has an element of entertainment in it because it really is entertainment, but at the same time, it's legitimate. It's legitimate entertainment. And if you just revolve your company, I think, around just pure wrestling, I think nowadays you're limiting yourself because fans want to be entertained. They want to see personality. I mentioned this a bit earlier in the video, but fans, that they want to see personality on top of wrestling. Moves are moves, but at the same time, if you're just doing moves, you're leaving an empty canvas because you're just showing that you're athletic. But There's more to wrestling than athleticism. Yes, athleticism is a huge part of it, but at the same time, you need to craft narratives that people are going to be invested in, because like you have to figure out how to get over. So if you just go out and you do a bunch of moves, you're getting the moves over, but you're not necessarily getting yourself over a lot of the time, right? So I would say you need to have a combination of wrestling and entertainment, wrestling and creativity, I would say. So that I really hope that answers your question, and I hope if anyone else had asked that question, hopefully it was answered too. But that's just some hot takes. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys want to see more of this, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back soon with more videos, time permitting.